Hey everybody, today's edition of Running in the Dark with Doug T. I bring on a fellow Midwesterner, a guy from the cold. Matter of fact, we just had a conversation about lawn mowers. But he's also known as the Big Deal, and this guy is one of those guys that's extremely funny. Every comic, when you're on the road, I usually say something about him, and we have our stories. But ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Appleton, Wisconsin, sometimes Nashville, please welcome Mike Merryfield. The Big Deal.
If you have any sort of comfort and feel any sort of safety with the security here, I'm about to blow that shit out of the water with this. On the door downstairs, this is from security. They fucking put their name on the end. And I know it's from security because they signed it right there. Security. All this shit comes right from security. Here's the best part. Spelled security wrong. It's S-E-C-U-R-T-I-Y. Security. We're security. They spelled security wrong. It's written on their fucking uniform. It's on their fucking uniform. And they spelled security wrong. There's a good chance we're all gonna die here tonight in the mall. I don't think they're stopping terrorism if they can't even stop grammatical errors.
Hey, thanks for having me, Doug. First, I do need to correct you. We were not talking about lawn mowers. We were talking about snow throwers.
Yeah.
Which, and they're technically called snow throwers, but in Wisconsin we call them snow blowers because you're blowing the snow. You know? I always have to remember when I talk to people that aren't from Wisconsin, I have to not use the Wisconsin dialect, you know.
Well, we call them snow blowers here, so in Iowa.
But they're technically snow throwers. Like if you buy one, it's a snow thrower.
Is that's the politically correct term then too?
I guess it's the acceptable way to say it.
Yeah. I never even thought about it. I said lawnmower, yeah. I guess I was thinking more about hopefully getting to mow the lawn soon rather than snow blow. You just went through that big storm that hit up there. Did it like lock you in?
No, it wasn't that bad. It doesn't, it's so weird. It doesn't seem like it snows like it used to when I was a kid. But everyone says that's because you were a kid, so the snow seemed deeper because you were smaller. So it had the appearance like we got a ton of snow. But they say we don't get any less nowadays, but I really feel like we don't get as much snow as we used to. We'll get 6 inches here or there, but we used to just get a lot of blizzards, a lot of really get dumped on. And I don't feel like it happens anymore.
And the sustainability too. It doesn't stay very long. I always feel like it's
right. And I blame Biden. I used to blame Trump, but now Biden's the president, so I have to blame him. So I've just transferred the blame.
Well, remember forever the meme was "Thanks Obama." Wasn't that everybody's meme forever? Like "Thanks Obama."
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and then Biden had the I did this on the gas pumps.
Yeah.
With the arrow.
Yeah, that's
and then Trump just has everybody viscerally hates the guy, just can't stand him, no matter what he does.
Oh man,
he could have cured cancer. He could have cured cancer while he was in office, and people would be like, "Yeah, but he made fun of that handicapped guy."
Yeah, I think I have that same exact hat as you're wearing right now. Is that a Volcom? That's Volcom, right? I think I got that.
I dress exactly like I did when I was 15 years old. I've literally never changed my style. I just although I don't wear jeans anymore. I used to be a jeans guy, but now it's always like khakis and it's always something other than jeans. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same here, man. It's
always Airwalks or Vans are the only shoes I'll wear. I have some Converse, but there's no bottom in those. They're just
it's like wearing a flip-flop.
You're legit flat-footed. I mean, it's like not wearing shoes. So
yeah, not only that, they're not very comfortable in cold weather situations. Your foot get cold really
so bad.
Quick. It's like wearing a sock with a rubber mat below it. Now you have changed looks over the years, I would say, because for a while you went the big beard. You had that big beard for a while. You know who I thought you always looked like? Do you remember the guy that played opposite of Robert Downey Jr. in Weird Science?
No, no, I don't. I maybe I'll watch that movie with my kids tonight, my boys. And look, I don't know. Did I know what that guy looks like?
This thing just kicked on live, started again. See, I did that with Gabriel the other day, too.
Well, what's happening?
You got to look this dude up. Okay, he was also, remember the movie Thrashing?
Yeah, I mean,
The bad-
I have this. I have a very bad problem when I watch movies. I immediately forget about them. Like the second I'm done watching, like I don't commit any of it to memory.
So this guy was the bad guy. He was like called Spider or something in the movie. Do you remember this dude? And his sister came from Indiana, and the other guy is the dude that was the good guy in No Country for Old Men, and he was also in Goonies.
Oh yeah, God, I'm terrible with names. I don't know the dude's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he was the
By the way,
opposite of it.
I didn't know that was the dude from Goonies forever.
Yeah,
On the line, I was like, oh my God, that's the dude from Goonies. I had no idea.
I'm looking up Thrashing on my phone. I wish I could bring it up here and show you. I'll show you the picture.
Figure
of
the guy's
dude.
name out, yeah.
Thrashing
The only
movie.
other thing I've ever got was people have told me I look like David Blaine, but
Yeah.
only from the mustache up. Maybe the mustache down. It's only half of his face. I
Yeah.
think I look like.
Your one eyebrow looks like his.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Josh Brolin was the dude in Thrashing. But this dude right here, can you see that guy?
Oh yeah, I wish I looked like that guy. That's a good-looking guy. What's his name?
Dude, you had that look. I mean, you kind of have that. His name is Ron Galella. That's a.
I
no
will
wonder
tell
he-
you, earlier when I had hair, when I first started in this business, my first color headshots, that shows you how old I am. Not that color weren't available, but the standard was black and white
Yeah.
is what you sent out. But yeah, and the first color ones I got, I looked like that dude when I had hair.
That,
Like you
so
mentioned
I'm
my look, but none of it was my choice. It was God. God did it. Look at this mess on top of my head. Look at that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what God did that to me. Like I lost this piece and this chunk. Like I had a perfect hairline. Everything was good. And then these 2 dime-sized bald spots appeared, and that was it. I mushed it up. I did the faux hawk and would cover up the bald spots for a while. And then I was working with my buddy, Jake Baker. We were working in Indianapolis, and I was telling him about it. And I had just filmed. I rented a couple cameras, and we did a 2-camera shoot or a 3-camera shoot at the Skyline here in Appleton. This is years ago. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
in my 30s. And we filmed all this great footage. Like we rented a boom. Like it was amazing. All the footage was amazing. And then we got it back, and I looked at it, and I was still doing the faux hawk thing. But from above, because the lights came from above, it just made it look like my hair was transparent, and it showed the bald spots. So I looked bald. I looked bald as hell from every angle. And I was like, oh man, not only use this footage for anything, I can't make a tape with it now, but like I got to do something about this. And then the next week I was working with my buddy Jake Baker. He's like, dude, you shave your head. You're a shaved head guy now. Like that's what you have to do. You can't keep mushing it over. You don't want to be a comb over guy. Like, so I shaved my head, and I've just been shaving it ever since. That's it. Now I wear hats. Now I'm a bald guy that wears hats. It's the most predictable thing in the world.
Yeah, mine is going back.
Yeah, but you at least just have the receding. Like yours is receding in a way where you can, Jack Nicholson looks dope with a receding hairline.
Actually, it's I can't. The lights hit me weird, but it's one of those. It's getting kind of not great.
Yeah, you'll be a shaved head guy in a few years. Well, how old are you though, Doug?
I'm 49. I'll be 50 in 50 in July. So.
Oh, I thought you were much younger than me. But yeah.
No,
I'm 50.
I am. So yeah, I'm right. I can always tell people I'm just standing on second base right now. I feel like, and I'm about to get in a rundown with third and second.
Dude, I can't believe how quick time goes now that I'm 50 years old. Like, I mean, I look at my, because you have kids maybe because you can see their growth. Because like my 15-year-old now is 6'2" and weighs 270 pounds. And I swear to God, I was just picking this kid up and holding them like
How
2
old is
years
he?
ago. He's 15,
He's 6'2", and how big?
270.
Jeez. But
He's a
you're
monster, dude.
You're tall, but
I'm
you're
6'1".
yeah, but you're like lanky, I would say. But
Yeah. I got this gut that I can't seem to get rid of, but like I have no like fat anywhere else on my body. But yet
right,
he's a monster.
man.
But he played football and he lifts weights all the time. And he technically has an advantage because he has a medical disorder that he's had his whole life. He has congenital hypopituitarism and congenital hypothyroidism, which basically just means he has an underdeveloped pituitary gland. And your pituitary gland like controls all the growth basically. And it also, the pituitary, but somewhere in there, cortisol is every person makes cortisol. Like when your body is stressed, you produce cortisol and that helps. I think it's kind of like a steroid that your body produces to kind of help you get through stressful moments. Well, he doesn't make that.
Okay.
So he has to supplement it. But the beauty of all this is, like, if this would have happened to my kid 30 years ago, my kid he'd be a little person. He'd be a little person. He would look like a child. He would just never develop, basically. And he also cognitively would have never developed. But we had a couple doctors when he was born. He was had a little trouble breathing on his own, so he ended up in the NICU. And this doctor noticed in his chart, just like abnormalities in his chart or whatever. And I don't remember exactly the details, but he's the one that helped diagnose it. So we got ahead of it all, and you lived a completely normal life because we live in the 2000s, man. Like for as much as we complain the medical advantages we have, he just takes a pill every day. A cortisol pill, and if he gets stressed, he has to have an injection. But then he also took growth hormone for a long time, for like 3 years, 4 years. Every day we'd have to give him an injection. And a lot of people think, well, maybe that's why he's 6'2", 270. But the growth hormone technically only grows you to the point you would have grown anyway. It doesn't add extra,
Right.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing, but you'd never be able to tell. That's what I'm saying. Like, you'd never be able to tell. You look at my kid and be like, what? He has and we've never made it an issue because we went to the children's hospital in Madison when he was really young, when they discovered it and everything. And we've been going there every 6 months in his whole life. But, the first visit there, we're sitting in the lobby and there's kids rolling up that can't use their arms and legs. They're rolling in wheelchairs and like kids that are really messed up.
Right.
And just, I adjusted immediately. I was like, my kid's fine. Like my kid's fine. He's so lucky to only have what he has. Like seeing these other cases there, just fucking, it makes you so sad. I don't know if I can swear, but it makes you sad,
Oh yeah, of course you can.
But he's so lucky, man. And he doesn't use it. He doesn't use it as an advantage or whatever. And
Right.
so, but it's cool. It's pretty cool. Like the modern miracle of, modern science and medicine and stuff. Like you'd never be able to tell, man. Like we've come a long way.
It's weird that like you start to realize the things that would have happened, like you said, 30 years ago. Look, that's a prime example. That's a totally different life for that person for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Like, do you know who Hasbulla is? You watch MMA, right?
Oh, the guy that's always around Khabib and Islam Makhachev, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like but he's 19 years old. He has a similar thing to what my son has, where basically his pituitary gland didn't tell him to grow, so he never grew.
Okay.
So I look at that when I discovered this Hezbollah or whatever his name was. I was like, oh, that could have been the alternative, because
Right.
he lived, obviously Hezbollah lives in a country where nobody caught on to it. That he's only 4 years older than my kid,
Right.
so it's interesting.
Yeah, God, you're serious. Wow, that was heavy.
Just all the conveniences we have, man. The fact that we're doing this.
Well, that's the one thing I just did a joke. I did a show Friday night and I talked about it on stage. I said, this ice storm that went through, I said it locked everybody in. I said, but one thing that you all had the ability to do is talk to the outside world. Because when we grew up, there was one line to the outside world. One line.
Yeah, if it was outside of your city, it was long distance. They cost legit money, like cost a lot of money.
Yeah, that's why the old jokes. I wonder if kids understand in those old movies when they go, "Is that a long distance call?" When somebody's like, "What does that mean?"
They don't get it.
But yeah, and you could not the other part of the joke is there was one algorithm in the house, and that was your dad with the remote. You're watching 7 seconds, everything you want to watch go by as your dad's taking it to stuff that you can't.
Doug, I'm so jealous. That's such a great premise. Your dad, when you were growing up, he was the algorithm for what you watched. God, that's brilliant.
And I said the other algorithm.
I hate when I hear jokes that good because I'm like, God, that was there for me. I could have taken that.
Oh no,
I'm a dad.
I just told Gabriel Rutledge the other day, one thing I started to do, Mike, and this is weird because and the reason why I'm doing it, and probably maybe you feel the same way, and Gabriel talked about this, is the world has really changed in our world of comedy. This is why I have guys like you and Gabriel, Dan Chopin, guys that I've looked up to when I started in this business and watched you guys go, like, you just controlled the room so well, no matter where you went. And I learned now, as I listened to all your guys' stuff, and it was all so relatable with everything. So now I'm just trying to absorb the whole world around me. Like if I'm on a plane, I take headphones off for a little bit and I just listen to what's going on around me. I hear a conversation over there and I start going, fuck, I know I can make a joke about that. And trying to find it that way. And that algorithm thing came because literally on one of my TikToks, once you get stuck in something, I got this lady going click, click, bang, and they're in a swimsuit. Maybe you don't have that algorithm. But my wife was like,
I believe I've seen that. I believe I don't go on TikTok, but when I'm on, YouTube shorts, then it's the same thing. It's essentially the same thing. So
so that was kind of the thing that made me go. It's just a joke. It's like I'm watching 7 seconds of all this other stuff, and the joke was my dad. But the other
you talk about. I was gonna say when you talk about, taking your headphones off and listening for things like that's what I've been doing for 27 years. Like
I know
it's kind of a curse, man, because I can't live a normal life. Like when I'm with my kids, it's hard to be normal. Once you train your brain to try to find the funny in everything, it's hard to live a normal life because normal people they're not thinking about it as much as you are. They just watch the movie. But when I'm going, hey, could I use that? Do I have anything in mind? Like I'm not even watching the movie. It's crazy, man. I'm watching my kids play. Like I listen to my kids talk now. That's one thing. I just listen to them talk because, it's going to be pretty easy to take a two-sided conversation from my kids to the stage, and it's just all, and it's got to be about your own life, man. It's got to be personal now more than ever. Because I know there was a time where in the business they were like, you need your clean 10 minutes so you can get a sitcom,
Yeah.
But now it's got to be real. Like you got to really be that person, because people are going to, if they like you, apparently they're going to want to follow you other places. But I appreciate you saying that you looked up to me. That's crazy. But, and like the fact that I control a room and this and that. And I think a lot of that is because my only goal when I started doing stand-up was to become a good stand-up. Like, and at the very least, I just want the respect of my peers. I want people to go, Merryfield kills. Like that dude, that's enough for me. I don't ever have to make millions of dollars. I don't ever have to be famous. Just the fact that my peers are like, no, Merryfield's pretty good at it. Like that's enough for me. Now, having said that, it used to be all about just being funny on stage. It used to just be about killing on stage. I spent 30 years getting to the point where I'm a murderer on stage. And now, unfortunately, if you're not on Instagram every 9 seconds or TikTok or, all these things, if you're not doing all the things, then nobody knows about you. Like nobody knows about me. Nobody knows who I am. And that's partially my fault for not diving head on into all this online stuff. But it's just, I only ever wanted to be a comedian. That's all I wanted to do. So it's the only thing I got good at in 30 years. I didn't get good at anything else,
Yeah.
you know?
And what you just said, it is weird because you said, well, it's your fault. What is it though? Like there's been stuff of you out there for years, and there's stuff of me, and there's stuff of other great comics that nobody knows about. And I just don't, like, sometimes I think, holy cow, because those are the people that keep those clubs open for all those years, and they have the big people come in, and then week after week after week, like you're special, the journeyman. That's exactly what it meant. This is what you've done. You've been everywhere.
Yeah.
You've played it, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's a weird dichotomy now. It really is. It's strange to me. I don't get it, but
Well, the whole thing's changed, and I don't want to sit here and sound like some old guy and be like, "Oh, you kids, it's the way
I don't think
do
you
it."
are. Yeah.
But it's like, I'm just not good with the technology, man. I'm just, you know what it is like, I love the idea of going in and doing stand-up. I love the idea of being anonymous. I love the idea of that people are like, holy shit, who's this guy? I've never heard of this guy. And he's like, fuck, dude, like, you're making me laugh so hard. And like, I like the shock value. I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, I've seen this guy's videos.
Yeah.
That I don't know. That just, to me, God bless everybody that it happens to. And I'd be the first one to embrace it if I had something go viral. But I don't know. I just always want to be a comedian, man. And I hate to be the bigger. I've brought this up on a few podcasts recently, but I think the business model of the journeyman comic, like us, people without huge credits or not known, going to go away, man. The idea of having a comedy club where every week you just bring in 3 random dudes and you don't know who the headliner is. It says, he's been on HBO and it says credits, but you're like, I don't fucking know who this guy is. And I'm talking about myself. Like, and there's a lot of clubs that still use me, where it's that they're still using that business model where people just come in and they don't really care who it is. The club has a good reputation. I'm sure it's going to be someone good. Usually the first guy sucks. The second guy's a little better on stage, as far as the show.
Yeah.
Once they go see the show, like, they get used to all
That's
these
what
things.
their thoughts are.
But I'm telling you what, man, 35 and under, maybe 30 and under, they're not going to take that risk. They're not going to go to a place and be like, oh, I wonder if we'll I hope we like this. Like, they're growing up with this in their hand, man, where they can just swipe. And my kids have the shortest attention spans.
Oh,
it's amazing. They can't even watch movies. Like, I was watching a movie that I can't remember the movie. It was like, I don't remember the movie, but it had I can't think of his name, but it was an action movie. It was a high-paced, fast-paced action movie, and my kids are like, "Oh, this is so boring. Like, when is it gonna get? When is it?" I was watching John Wick just last night with my 12-year-old. One of the greatest movies ever. And like 10 minutes in, he's like, "Oh, when is he gonna start shooting people? This is so boring." And I'm like, "But this is part of it, man. They're building the character. You like this younger generation. So I don't think they're gonna go to Joe's comedy club and just hope that the headliner's good. I think they're going to save their money and they're going to go see Bert Kreischer when he's in town, or Tom Segura. They're going to go see them at the theater.
Right.
I hate to say it, but like, if I owned a comedy club right now, I'd be bringing in TikTok stars and YouTube stars.
And that's what they do.
And
a lot
comedians with names. I wouldn't do anything. I would not book guys like me.
Yeah. And it's definitely trending that way. And Gabriel said that no longer is you started a host, you make it to here, you do that. It's now you're either here or nothing.
Yeah, you get a podcast, you go viral on TikTok, and then you're a headliner. They're skipping the in-between steps. And this is when I start to sound like an old guy.
Yeah, no, I don't think you do, because it is our industry, but then you think of industries out there that some people are going, like self-checkout. You go to a grocery store, you go to the airport anymore. You go to an airport, you might not see anybody at some restaurants. You just got to do everything kiosk and the food comes out. It's almost like Idiocracy, the movie, starting to get, but.
Well, again, it's this technology, like, to bring it back to when you were talking about long distance phone calls and talking on the phone when we were kids.
Yeah.
My ex-wife is kind of getting on my boys about, and always really has, about, like, you need to go hang out with your friends, go hang out at your friend's house. And how come you don't do anything? Like, when we were kids, we were always gone. And I'm just like these kids are not growing up in 1978, man. They're growing up in 2023. They don't need to go to their friend's house, because all they got to do is lift up their phone to see them. My kids play both of them play video games with their friends
Right.
online. So they're with their friends 6-7 hours a day. Doug, when we were young, if I wanted to see my friend, I had to go to his house to see him.
And I would tell you,
it's different now.
And if I went to your house, this is another part of that joke. If I went to your house to hang out with you and I had to sit and watch you play a video game, I'd be like, dude, I'm out of here. But now they'll watch somebody play video games online for hours.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I'd be like, it's my turn, dude. Like, you're not gonna let me take a turn. I'm leaving. You know,
the mother would come in and go, Joey, let Doug play. And
yeah, exactly, Joey. Yeah,
and
so
they take the remote and you just look at him like, thank you. But that's all changed.
Trying not to be like people did when I was young. I'm trying to just understand that that's the way it is. So the way I don't do that. You know, my wife and I are divorced, so I don't have to be like that over here. So over here, I don't hold them to standards. They don't have to live the same life I lived growing up. I don't want them to have the same childhood I have.
Yeah.
And I want them to have the childhood that they have organically, you know, and I'm definitely involved in their life. I try to push them certain ways and stuff, but you know, the attention span is the real problem in the future, man. And we're all doing it, dude. I'm doing it too.
I'm the same.
I find myself fast forwarding through videos of like YouTube people that I like. Like I watch all their videos. Like I like them. I used to watch every second. Now I'm like, it's some boring time. Let me because I watch a lot of car videos. So it's like, well, get to the part where you're working on the car. I don't want to hear you talk.
Yeah.
Show me the engine. Show me the cool shit. You know.
I'm that way with there's a feature on there that you can ×2 it. And so the video's going in ×2. So if you're listening to something and blah, 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 they're talking a little bit faster, but you're catching. That's how our brains are now scheduled to work. You have to bring everything in constantly. And
the fact that that's even a feature,
right?
Like on the podcast app or whatever, it's like you get 2, 3, even 4 times. I'm like, who's got so little time they need to listen to a podcast 4 times faster? Like, you can't possibly be absorbing anything.
That's the thing. It's like you're listening to Alvin and the Chipmunks. That was like a joke, you know, back when if they sped up a record, it was like, hey, sell it as this. We'll call them Chipmunks. Now people are literally walking around listening to podcasts going, yep, I'm getting it. I don't understand how that works either.
Well, I think it's amazing how much, because I got both of my kids' phones. It's been a blessing and a curse, but I got them phones like 4 years ago or something like that. So they've had iPhones, and there's been good with it, and then there's also been bad. They will sit on TikTok if you let them sit on TikTok. But I didn't want them to be the only kids that don't have them.
Right.
I don't want them to be that weird kid that doesn't get a phone until he's 18. Well, now you just set your kid back a long way. It's a blessing and a curse. You know, I got them to communicate with my kids. You know, my kids they don't ever make phone calls like this.
They hold
phones to their head anymore. It's all speakerphone and it's just in front of them.
Yeah.
Like I was like, no, when you're talking to your mom, she can't hear you, you know, because she's like, what? Because all the extra noise is getting in there. And I go, just put it on regular and put it to your ear. And it's like the most foreign thing in the world to them. So it's not even like, we're to the point where a telephone's not even a telephone anymore. You know, they're not even doing telephone things with it. They're just connecting with a separate device. You know, that's a little nerdy, but yeah, it's so weird how quickly everything's changed.
Think of what you would had to have had in a backpack or some sort of bag to carry the shit around that's on your phone for you right now. I mean, it's remarkable. I went to NASA at one point, and they were telling us that our phones had way more technology than that thing that they took to the first thing they took to the moon. If it went to the moon, who knows? I don't want to get any of that going, but your phone has way more technology. Just an atlas alone. Think about going to gigs back in the day and having to look through an atlas.
Dude, I was just having that discussion with a comic. It was a young cat or whatever. And I always preface it with, I'm not trying to be that old guy, but
we are, though.
I used to have to like write directions down and then, to have a map. And I think the reason it came up is because when I got to the town we were doing the show in, I just automatically found where the gig was. I just have like this comedic sense, this comedian sense. When I get to the small town, I just kind of can figure it out. It's like, you know, you just look for the place and then you just stumble upon it.
Right.
And it's a skill I developed back when that's how you had to find places. You'd be looking at a map while you're fucking we're talking like the trucker atlases that you get at the truck stops.
Dude, I still have one.
And then when MapQuest came out and you could actually print them, just print the turn-by-turn directions, that was a game changer. And then,
do you remember how wrong those were, though? Like the time was always way off.
Wrong.
It'd be like the directions would be right, but it'd say it'd take you 9 hours and you'd get there in 7. You're like, God, I made great time.
I mean, that's maybe why I always leave like hours of cushion to
Yeah.
allow for a flat tire or something. But maybe that's why I started it back then, because they were so inaccurate. But yeah, you would print them out, and then Garmin came out after that, and I got a Garmin for Christmas one year from my parents, my father-in-law, and total game changer, man. And you had to pay for Garmin. You had to pay to update the maps. Otherwise, the maps would be outdated. And after like a year, you know, some of these highways aren't even there anymore. So you'd be looking on the Garmin, and it looks like you're driving through a cornfield on the Garmin.
Yeah.
But, you know, they've since made a highway. But you got to pay to see that. So
Yeah.
it's crazy, man.
That's
It makes it
Dan
so much
Chopin.
easier, though. So much easier.
And that's one of the things I've been telling people is how easier the world is, how much time saving we have now, and yet we want to go faster. You know, like think about if you wanted to find out about a certain thing, you had to go to the library, look it up, go there, and hopefully it was in that section. If it wasn't, you had to find the page then. Now you can just say it into your phone, and within a half a second, you have 1 million stories on it telling you about it. And
I'm still
people are
flattered when my kids ask me questions. I'm still flattered. Like, okay, they think Dad knows something because they have the answer. They have the machine that can tell them the real answer.
Right.
But they're like, yeah, I think Dad might know this, so they'll actually go ahead and ask me. You know,
I've said that to my wife before. She'll text me and say, "Hey, do you know the phone number to this place?" And I go, "You could have saved so much more time by saying that into your phone, and you'd had it right now."
yeah. You could have asked that Siri.
That's old brain technology.
The old days, we were trying. Me and a couple buddies. This is like, I mean, I'm 50 now. I was probably early 20s, and me and some friends were trying to think of Chris Elliott's name, the guy that used to be on Letterman all the time. He had his own show.
Yeah.
You know, that blonde guy, or redhead guy or whatever. We couldn't think of Chris Elliott's name one day. We're having a conversation, and I'm like, you know, the guy he had the show, he's on Letterman all the time. We couldn't think of it. And we just like leave the conversation, and then like 2 days later, it pops into my head. Holy shit, it was fucking Chris Elliott. But I couldn't just like call my friend and leave a message on his phone that he wouldn't get until he was home from being on the road, because there was no cell phones. Like, but that nowadays, it's like, okay, Letterman, red hair, it's Chris Elliott. Like, it would take you literally seconds, but it was a mystery for 3 days. And I remember when my buddy got the message, he then called me and was like, holy shit, I can't believe you finally thought of it. Like, that is, yeah, you know, we continued the conversation we had started 3 days earlier. Because the technology, and I love it, dude. I mean, I think 99% of it is great. The porn aspect. I mean, just that alone, that my two boys are not going to have to go through that hunger, that hunch for pornography that we used to have to go for. It was just so rare and sparse. And now they can just look and see anything they ever like. It took me, you know, the old about that you would hear when you're young about, and I apologize in advance if it's cancelable, but that Asian vaginas went the other way.
Oh God, I never heard that.
You never heard that Asian vaginas were horizontal?
No.
Yeah. Well, that's an old stupid thing, but when you hear things when you're a kid, you're like, I don't know. True, I don't know. There was like, it literally took me 15 years to find Asian pornography before I could dispel that myth in my own head. Even though I was pretty sure it was bullshit. But like, that's how long it took you.
I call it Trugle. Like, if somebody's talking shit, you can Trugle them right now. Like, you just look it up and see if it's true. And you're like, nope. Because think about that. Like, you can look up anything you want to find out and figure it out right now.
Anything. Think of all the questions we had when we were kids that we don't even remember we had those questions. Now the answer is available, but we can't remember the question. Because we're like, well, I guess I'll fucking never know that.
Have you ever looked up
wonder about things and go, yeah, I guess I'll never know that.
Yeah. You ever looked on, like, tried to look up how to do something and you type in how to, and then you just get lost because you change it, and then you start adding a word and it brings up, or add a letter and it brings up like the dumbest things you've ever seen. You're like, these are the most popular that show up first. And you're like, I can't believe people wondered this.
The internet is an amazing thing, man. I mean, and this is the crazy part about all of it is it's only, what, 25 years old, 30 years old?
Well, 96 is about when it really came like to public, right? The internet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 4 years out of high school in 96.
Yeah, because I remember going to a guy's house that had it on his computer, and he's like, watch this. And he's like, go look at these people are talking. And I'm like going, wow. Yeah, I didn't really understand it.
Because that's what a lot of it was at first. It was chat rooms, right?
Yeah. It was like AOL was like had came out, and you could get in this thing and look at like a news story. It'd be a news story, and it'd take forever for it to come down the line. And then there'd be that, and then, I mean, I just remember chat rooms.
What's so weird is I don't realize how old I'm getting until you say something about AOL, and then like I remember getting the discs. Like I remember when Netflix started, I watched the first 3 seasons of Breaking Bad with the DVDs that they would send you.
You'd send it back.
And I mean, I would watch the episode and I would go right to the mailbox and put it in so I could get that next one as soon as possible. Like,
that's wild, right?
I don't feel old at all until I start having these conversations. Then it's like, holy shit, I have been here for a while. Like 50 years is a long time, man. A lot's happened.
50 years in when we had our first games, the first games that were out, it was either like those Pong ones that you had that paddle where the ball literally was on a screen like this, and it would go ding, 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 back and forth. Think about that. That was entertaining. We would sit there for hours and just watch that thing go back and forth. So when, like somebody asked me one day about why I do TikTok. Well, why do you do so many of those videos? I thought to myself, well, you watch them. You watch people's videos. Somebody's got to make them. That's why I make them sometimes. Because I'm the guy that don't want to watch. I want to make.
For it. You're well suited for it. And I haven't watched a second of what you do, but I think I can figure it out. I bet you do a lot of characters and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you have that in your bag of tricks that you can do. So it's perfect for guys. It's perfect for a lot of guys. A lot of guys are good at it. I just have this weird thing with aiming a camera at myself, man. I feel even people taking a picture of me, I get a weird feeling. I don't like to be. It's amazing I chose a profession where I stand in front of fucking strangers because I don't like to be looked at. I don't like.
Right.
Yeah, I get uncomfortable when there's a camera. I'm terrible. If I got a sitcom, I'd be probably the worst fucking actor in the world. Maybe that's why I always just wanted to be a comedian, because I knew I'm probably a shitty actor. I don't know. Maybe I'm a good actor. I've never tried.
Yeah, but wait a second. You did that barbecue thing for a while, where you were going out and doing barbecue reviews, and you were doing short little clips for a while. Yeah, but those are memorable. Like that, I did that about your sock thing the other day, because I remember having the I can't remember what you called it, but
from Wisconsin can cooler.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where you take your sock off, you put the beer in it, and then you hang it out the window for like 10 minutes, and then the beer's cold.
Yeah. And, you were always on the cutting edge, too, I felt like, because you were recording stuff, and I thought I would hear it on, God, what was it back then? Was it XM? Just XM radio. And I would hear your stuff, and it always had that, you had like a personal recorder sound going through, but it was coming through, and it was your material, and it was like... You got to listen to it and go. But you were like early on in that before other people were doing that.
So early on. And the way that happened is I went and did the Boston Comedy Festival, and I met this guy named Joel Haas. And Joel Haas at the time was the program director for XM before Sirius and XM even merged. He was the program director on the comedy channels on XM. So, and back then, I may or may not have had weed with when I went to the Boston Comedy Festival. So I was the only guy there that had weed because everybody else is floating. So we all end up in this room, someone's room, getting high or something. And this Joel Haas guy was like, hey, Joel Haas, nice to meet you. I hear you have weed. Is it okay if I come with you guys? I'm the program director at XM. And I was like, I'll get you as high as you want to get. All you got to do is play my shit on XM. He goes, deal. And we just became buddies after that. And then it just so happened like 6 months later, he got a hold of me and he goes, hey, I see you're going to be in Colorado Springs with Kristen Key. I'm going to be there recording an album for her. I can record you as well if you want. And I'm telling you, dude, he had like 8 microphones for the audience. Like he had a whole rig. This is before it was even easy to record shows. Like he brought in like professional shit.
Yeah.
And I did. It was Looney's in Colorado Springs. So it was like, it's still Wednesday through Saturday. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows. So what I did is I tried to do picture material I had ever thought of or even thought of thinking of, and by the end of it, I was writing stuff that week, like trying to think of stuff. I just tried to get every single thing I could recorded because I knew it was being recorded well. And then ended up making 2 albums out of that.
Oh my God.
And because he worked for XM, he ingested all those albums into the library, ingested all that material in there. And then they ended up merging with Sirius XM. That's when he got fired. Or no, I mean, they went with the Sirius XM guy. They only need one guy.
Right.
But they used the XM radio's library more robust than Sirius's library. At the time, Sirius didn't have very much comedy because XM, Joel Haas and Sonny, remember Sonny Fox? Those guys were going out and actually recording material. They were way ahead of the game. Joel Haas was way ahead of the game. But yeah, he gave me 2 specials from each album and he played the shit out of them on there. So I got locked into that Sirius XM loop years ago. And I made a lot of money, man. I made a lot of money off of it.
That's great. Well, and those days are gone, right? You can't even get that anymore.
Those days are gone, man. And especially lately because of this whole royalty snafu and everything that's happening. Is too long of a story to get into, but there's a group of comedians suing Pandora and Sirius, and Pandora owns Sirius XM, so they're suing them for $45 million for royalties that they say they're owed. And allegation, Sirius XM basically pulled everybody's catalog, like most people's catalog. They don't have much comedy anymore. They just stopped playing. And I was actually a member of another rights organization called Spoken Giants, and we're trying to there's a third royalty. I guess I'll tell the story. There's a third royalty.
Yeah, that's
like
good.
When you record, and I think I'm with music, there's 3 different royalty streams that come out of that song being played, right? So like Pandora, when they play your song, they pay the artist who sang the song. They play whoever the rights holder is. In most cases, that's the record label that the comedians on or the singers on.
Like
and then
publisher?
Yep. And then they pay out the writer who's responsible for the spoken word, who wrote it. So that's how they pay out music. Well, traditionally in the comedy world, we have Sound Exchange, and Sound Exchange was set up to pay out artists and rights holder, but they were never set up to pay out that third royalty. So basically, all these years that they've been playing stand-up comedy on Pandora and Spotify, this doesn't necessarily, it applies to Sirius as well, but basically all these years, they've been just hanging on to that third royalty stream and putting it in an account to simplify it. I don't know exactly what they do, but they can't spend it because it's technically not their money. So these companies all have this pool of money that their excuse has been, we don't have the means to distribute this money. Sound Exchange only does this and that. So they just never did it. They just hang on to the money, and they presumably make a lot of money in interest off of all this money.
Yeah.
So we created Spoken Giants, and the idea was, okay, well, now there's a way to distribute that money. We signed comedians up, and we're building this thing. In the meantime, another company started a very similar company doing the same thing, and they're called Word Collections. And instead of taking the route that we were taking, where we were trying to have talks with Sirius and talks with all of these platforms and explaining what we were doing, and we weren't trying to strong arm anyone. We were trying to do it in a friendly way, try to negotiate, to get them to start paying out this royalty. Well, this other group teams with a bunch of comedians, like I think Ron White was one of them, Bill Engvall, I think maybe Robin Williams' estate. And they all got together and they're suing Pandora and Sirius XM for $45 million.
Oh my God.
So, reaction to that, Sirius is like, anybody that signed up for either one of those companies, we're pulling all their catalog down. And of course, I had signed up for Smoking Giant. So they pulled my entire catalog down and they took it off. And Spotify took it down as well. And they also took comics down that weren't signed up. Giants, but I'm pretty sure they took all the Spoken Giants and Word Collection people down. But so it's just a big mess right now. And everyone's waiting to see how that lawsuit pans out. And you can submit to SiriusXM right now. You can submit material, but you have to give up that third. You have to be with a record label that's willing to give up that third royalty stream for you. You have to give it up anything in the past, anything in the future.
Right.
And which I personally don't think is a good move. I mean, no matter how much money it is, I think I'm owed money. And I don't want to compromise
be the one guy
myself.
that jumped off the boat. I
don't want to be the guy that's like, well, there's a lot of comedians, and I don't blame them, man. They're making a lot of money. They make a lot of money, through SiriusXM. They pay the best. So a lot of these companies are like, you know what? Screw that third royalty. I'd rather make the two right now. Just, make the money now. And I don't blame them at all for that. But I'm sort of like, I just don't want to. I don't want to give up my rights. Like, you have rights. You can't just give up your rights, man. That's what America's all about. You have a right to this third revenue stream, and that they should have to pay it to you. And they're already not paying hardly anything anyway for Spotify and Pandora, when people can just stream your shit.
Yeah.
And they're already, it's already 0.0007 cents per spin or some shit like that. It's already nothing. So for them to go, yeah, well, we don't want to give you that other 0.00007 cent per spin that we owe you either. It's like, it's not a lot of money, man, especially for me.
Right.
I did good on Pandora. I had like 16 million lifetime spins on Pandora.
Wow.
And you talk about algorithms and building up momentum. That was built up over 10 years. They took my entire catalog down. So even if they put my entire catalog back up tomorrow, I doubt they could just turn it back on in the same fashion where I would maintain all that preference that I had before and all that, because all that fan base, everybody that I had thousands of people that have subscribed to my channel and listened to Mike Merryfield. It's all gone. They go and look and it's gone, and then they're done. They delete it and go, well, I'm not going to keep this on here if the guy doesn't have anything. And so and for a comic that's a road comic and I make my living doing stand-up, losing royalties to a comedian is devastating, man. I mean, we already don't make a lot of money. We don't have 401ks. We already have everything stacked against us. And then for them to sort of, in a vindictive manner, just go, yeah, well, fuck you, we're not playing your stuff anymore. It's like, it's shitty. It hurts. And luckily I have a real job. I work for a record label. I have another income besides stand-up comedy, thank God, because COVID would have killed me. I don't know how you guys did it. I don't know how other people made it through COVID and survived.
I work construction.
Just every day I was like, thank God I have a reliable, stream of income.
Yeah. It was, and the one thing that happened with COVID too, I found, is a lot of the places that you knew you had, you kind of had relationships with those people at those places. A lot of them are gone. They don't work there anymore. Different places that you used to play, and they're just gone. So it's not as easy to get back in there as it was either.
Well, and we lost a lot of the C and D level rooms. If there's A, B, C, and D, I work a lot of C and D level rooms. A lot of those didn't come back, and some of them came back, and then they just upped their roster. Now they're bringing in people that are actually a draw, and that of course counts me out as well. So it is harder to get back in. Like right when we came back from lockdown, and Brian Regan's doing weeks in comedy clubs, it's like it's gonna be a long time before they get to Mike Merryfield if Brian Regan's coming back to doing clubs. Thankfully, he went back to theaters, but
and a lot of those guys I think were warming up, but still, people are thinking they're waiting, going, well, maybe so and so will be coming next time. They're maybe not popping in for you. Now, you know what? I just thought of something about earlier that we were talking about. Was it you? Tell me if I'm wrong. I think you were there at Penguins, and some lady didn't like your material.
That's the least shocking thing I've ever heard in my life.
But how you responded to her was, I thought, absolutely brilliant. You said, do you just walk into a movie theater without watching a preview? Because there's lots of places to find me online. You said something in those sentiments. Maybe next time.
I've heard it from other people too, but I parroted it as well. It's like you don't have the right.
Okay.
You can't complain to me about it because you had every opportunity to avoid it. You could have watched video clips of me online. It would have been easier for you to do a little research. Again, that was back when they would just come to the club and hope the guy's good.
Yeah.
And that's where that time it bit me in the ass. And my arch nemesis is middle-aged females, dude. Karens are my fucking enemy, dude. I've lost so much comedy club work because of Karens complaining.
Really?
The loony bins. I don't work any of the loony bins anymore because the last time I was there, they had a few women called and complained. And for the life of me, it always baffles me that club owners can't do the simple math in their head. Okay, let's say 3 women complain. I think it was 2, they said, but let's say it's 3. Let's say 4 women called and complained. Well, that means 996 other people didn't call and complain that saw me at your club. Actually, it's the loony bin. So that means 43 other people saw me at your club and didn't complain. I guess now that I think of the turnout ratio, maybe they are right to be upset about 4. But anyway, a couple women complained. They didn't book me for like 2, didn't return emails or anything for like a year and a half. And finally I was like, all caps, what the fuck is happening? Do I work for you anymore? And then finally Jeff, God rest his soul, I don't know if God's involved, but he was like, dude, I can't work you. Last time you were in Little Rock, I think is where I was, you got complaints.
Of all places to get complained.
And by the way, what bothers me is it was the manager of the club is a guy named Biggs. I don't even know his real name. He's just a big fat guy.
Oh, that's Wichita.
Wichita. Okay.
Yeah.
But he also does comedy. He's the one that fucking ratted me out. He's the one that complained to Jeff about him getting calls. So that's why I was like, and I don't ever badmouth people, but I'll badmouth this guy because you're not a comedian. If you didn't back me on that, you could stick your head in that room, any one of those shows, and hear that I'm fucking killing in that room. Whether 3 or 4 women call and complain has nothing to do with it. It should have just been like, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. And then you just go, you don't rat me out to the booker. Because that took 4 weeks, probably 6 weeks a year off of my calendar because a couple of Karens were angry. So fuck Karens. I don't like them. The only thing I do like is Karen porn. Have you watched any Karen porn yet? Oh, it's the best. The best. It's real easy to explain. Just like a middle-aged white lady shows up at a black barbecue, just bitching, right?
Oh,
then the rest kind of writes itself.
God.
I'm sorry, Doug. I didn't mean to do an actual bit on your show. That was an actual bit.
I didn't know if that was it. I didn't know if it was, but I was just let me imagine the rest.
I mean, it seems like it could be true.
I could definitely see that. Does you did Comedy Zones for years too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did some of them. They never gave me all of them. And
I've only done 1. My whole career, 1.
Honestly, dude, they pay the worst, and it's disrespectful how low they pay. And I used to do, like, I got lucky the first time I ever worked for them. I did the Bahamas, but my buddy Mark Ryan took me with him, so I didn't have to I didn't beg for that gig. I just got it handed to me. And then after that, they used me. Like the dude in Greensboro, I guess, really likes me, but I haven't been back there in 3 years. But yeah, they give me a couple of them. But I'm also willing to bet I probably got complaints back then too. Like people complaining. And I just had another booker that I worked for, and he gave me oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I can bring you back because you're a little too blue for my audience. And I was like, dude, you could tell me to clean it up. I'm not against you telling me to clean it up, but if you don't tell me, I'm going to do what I do. But if you go, hey man, like the audiences here are a little older, they don't really like it. Like if you could clean it up, I'd be like, oh, cool, man. Yeah, I can do a whole different hour set that's clean. Like you just didn't say anything, and then to just, I'm not going to use you anymore. And then he went radio silent. Like I emailed back, like, hey, man, like I'm always happy to be clean, and I never heard back. So, but
it's such a weird thing. It's almost like the what was that coach's name in Indiana? Bobby Knight.
I
Like
have
just
no idea.
within
If you're gonna
like
talk sports, I'm gonna bow out. I don't know anything about sports.
Bobby Knight was the coach from Indiana that would choke kids and scream and yell, the basketball coach.
Nice.
And then they put him like at Texas A&M or somewhere down there. And they told him after one time he got in trouble, they said, "You can't do that again and we're going to have to fire you." So he'd been doing it for years. And then
It was just the way he did business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew that when they hired him, but then he choked a kid in practice and screaming at him. And they said, if you do it again, you're out. Well, of course he did it again. I mean,
dude, I don't know about coaches anyway. My kids are in, a fair amount of organized sports, and my kid's got his basketball coach. The man's son is on the team as well. So he yelled at his kid like he'd yell at his kid in the driveway. But it's like, I'm embarrassed for the kid. And also it's like, dude, it's, they're 12, man. Fucking relax. Relax.
Oh, dude.
Relax a little bit. These people take it so serious, man.
Sports. My kids played sports. My daughter played travel softball. They played soccer. And I remember seeing like just almost all out fist fights in parking lots. And you're like,
yeah, it's insane.
What is going on here?
You guys, man, do you think I think it's like they're trying to live vicariously through their son. Like their dad didn't push them like that. So they're like, I bet if I push my kid to this if I push him, he could be in the NBA. Like I never could. And I don't know.
I watch the sideline at I haven't gone to a football game for probably 10 years, but like at a college game, at an Iowa Hawkeye game, I remember seeing kids on the sideline, and I told a buddy, I said, this is the non-civilian brain, as Dan Chopin called people without comic brains civilians. He said, yeah, his wife's a civilian.
Absolutely.
But I'm looking at this person. I'm thinking that guy was a star at his school, to be at a D1 school, a star. His whole life has probably been everything. Dude, we love you. And now he's not even seeing any field time. Can you imagine the dent in the ego that you'd have to have for that a little bit?
Well, it's kind of like how I used to do a lot more stand-up comedy. My career was going a lot better, and now I can't get emails returned. I mean, I'm kind of feeling the same thing, to be honest with you.
Oh, I understand completely where you're coming from. It's definitely, the world has changed in that aspect too. It's always been hard to get calls back, but now it's even like totally different.
I won't mention any names, but there's a former booker, and he's online, and he's been going through some tough times. And I'll tell you off the air, but he's been going through some tough times, and he's asking people to send him money and stuff because he's really having a rough time. And I just want to email him and say, I'll send you some money, but call me next Tuesday and I'll send you some money. And then when he calls on Tuesday, I'm going to go, man, I'm just running out of the office right now. Do me a favor, call me in 2 weeks on a Thursday, and then I'll give you some money. I just think it would feel so rewarding to give back what they do to us.
Yeah. You chase your tail a lot. It feels like you're chasing your tail a lot, and it just feels so overwhelming at times. Like
I get it though, right? I mean, I do see it from their side. Like they're getting
for sure
hundreds of. I mean, I booked a little room in Wisconsin for just a little while, and it was like I got hundreds of emails from comics, and I got all kinds of friend requests on Facebook. It was like, oh, that's what this is like. I don't want to be a booker.
Yeah, there's guys that once they get that. I mean, you'll see somebody post something online and they'll have like 500 people responding to it. And I'm like, oh, I get it. That guy must book a room. Yeah. Well, forever the old adage was, who books that? And I mean, whenever somebody posted something terrible or good or whatever.
I still am known to write that from time to time. But
your words are, when I feel like I did something cool, because you don't say much online, but when you say solid, I think, all right. It makes me feel good when I see that. That's what I
like people to think. Yeah, I like. Yeah, I don't give my salad out a lot, but I give.
That's cool.
Some people have copied me. I see other people doing it. It's like, I'm pretty sure I started that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to write. I used to do a lot of stuff online. I used to be. Every now and then, Facebook will bring up something I said, and I'm like, I can't believe I said that. Like, I can't believe I put that on the internet. Like, of course people hate me. Of course women are mad at me. Like, I can't even believe I wrote that. Like, I remember one time I went through my Facebook. I went back. I thought all the way and deleted everything, but because for a while there, I would just try out horrible jokes and horrible premises on the internet. I was like, that's what it's for, right? But it's like, no, people take shit when they read it, they take it literally. They don't understand that I'm trying to be funny.
Yeah, sarcasm
Yes,
never
so
comes across, or the
yeah, and
tonality of it.
I think I do a lot of my comedy comes from the tone of my voice, I guess. So
Yeah.
it gets lost on the internet. But yeah, I stopped doing all of it. Basically, when I started working for the record label, I was like, I gotta quit being an asshole on the internet because I'm
Because you don't
representing
want them to. You don't want them to go. Hey, we've had a few complaints.
yeah. Well, I don't want to be on there. I would jokingly talk shit about other comedians, always jokingly. I'm never an
Yeah.
ass because they're my brothers. I don't like to make fun of comics, but I would jokingly make, in silly ways, make fun of them. But what if I end up being the engineer on there recording their next album? I can't.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
very real possibility. Some of the people I used to make fun of online are on the record label I work for, so I have to be
Yeah.
careful. And I guess I'm an adult now, and I kind of thought that's what the internet was for at the time, but everyone else started, taking it more seriously. I guess I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I thought it was just for like I didn't think it mattered. I thought it was just like this secondary thing. I'm just gonna try some jokes out over here, and then next thing you know, the internet becomes everything.
Yeah. It's literally everything. Anything you want. Remember when you used to get back in the old days, and you had a flip phone, and you'd click out, and you'd have to type out like S 3 times or
Oh yeah,
three
yeah.
times. But do you remember when you would get like a like I don't remember where it was. I got like a Michigan State football game score, and I thought this is amazing. This
Oh
thing
yeah,
just said,
yeah.
I don't even know how I got it, but it texted out the word ESPN in like block letters, and then it said Michigan State 7,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know how
It
I
might have
got
been.
it.
It might have even been something you could add sent to your beeper back in the day when we had pagers, because pagers preceded the cell phone. It was a short window. It was only like a couple of years, and then phones got so good. But for a few years there, it was about pagers. And then if you had a pager, everyone's like, "What are you, drug dealer? You got a
Oh
pager?"
yeah, I remember
15 years
carrying.
later, everyone's just staring at their fucking phones.
I remember taking the garage door opener once and wearing it on my belt to make it look like I had a
It looked like
pager.
you had a pager. That's hilarious. When I first started doing stand-up, the guy, I worked at the comedy club here in Appleton. The guy that owned the club, Cliff, gave me a pager because I helped him run the club. And he's like, "Here, I get a hold." I felt so fucking cool, dude, having that pager. I was like, and I had a bag phone in my car. My only cell phone was a bag phone because the portable ones weren't small enough yet.
Yeah,
They were still fucking
it
weird.
looks
So
like
I
you're
had a
calling in
legit
an
wired in.
like a flight battalion sending some clicks.
Yeah. It looks like what a satellite phone looks like now.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
satellite phones look like regular phones now.
Yeah, it's wild that in a short amount of time. Well, it feels short, but actually it seems like a long time now. But it all went so quickly. Like people would say, "Oh, technology is going to pass you by fast," and you didn't think of it then. But like cameras now, your phone has the best camera you can. I mean, I think your phone costs the most because of the camera stuff in it. It's incredible. They're incredible.
Imagine that he was being a photographer. Imagine, like, I mean, I have friends that had to switch, professions because
That's
no
what I
one
went to school
hires you
for,
to do
dude.
their wedding anymore. If you got a Samsung fucking whatever, they take rad pictures, man.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I went to
must.
school for.
Oh yeah, so then you got to feel like a fucking idiot now. You went to school for something that any asshole can do on a phone.
I still
Wow.
shoot. It's not like a VCR repair man. You can still
Yeah.
get
That
people
would
that
have been
want to pay
dope.
for your work, but it's not nearly. I did step away. I mean, I had a studio downtown, and I got I just got to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because everybody's like, well, what if you shoot it this way or that way? And I'm like, oh God,
The point you came to me so I could do my job, but yeah.
I once
Yeah,
took
man,
a
this guy
camera
was-
off and handed it to a grandma and said, "Here, you shoot him."
Wouldn't
She
you have
kept going,
felt
"Oh, you're
dumb,
missing
though?
that. Oh, God, get that one. Oh, you missed that." And I was like, "Here, you." I took my camera off and I handed it to her and said, "You shoot him."
That's a risky move because what if she takes the camera and then she's like way better than you? Like the photos are
Well,
way
it's
better
like
than your photo.
it's like
Turns
the
out
other
Nana
day I
had a
heard a
good
comic. I heard a comic that was opening up for me say to the crowd, like midway through a set, "So are we having fun?" And I told the host backstage, I said, "Don't ever fucking say that." And he goes, "Why?" I go, "Because you just opened the door for somebody to be a lot funnier than you in the crowd."
Asking questions in general. Dusty Slay has the best one. You know who Dusty is?
I don't know him, but I know who he is.
Yeah, so Dusty has this line. He just says, "We're having a good time. We're having a good time." And he just, like, after the first joke, he goes, "We're having a good time." Then he goes, I always say we're having a good time. I can't ask. I can't afford to risk it. So I like to just say we're having a good time." And it's the most brilliant thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because if a joke does well, he says, "We're having a good time," and he gets an extra laugh. If a joke bombs, he goes, "We're having a good time," and he gets an extra laugh. It's the most genius thing I've ever heard.
God damn.
It's like his get her done, but it's not annoying. Like it's a smart get her done. Although no, I don't think maybe the crowd probably eventually be like, "Hey, we're having a good time. Hey, we're having a good time too," you know.
You know what it is? It's the encyclopedia salesman. You know what an encyclopedia salesman is? What it meant is they used to get you to say yes 26 times before they'd ask for the sale, because then you'd have said yes 26 times. Is that your dog?
I didn't know about that.
Is this your house? Oh, those your kids? Is that your wife?
Yeah.
That was like an old technique. They'd try to get you to keep saying yes, yes, yes. So when you got to the point where they said, "So do you want some of these?" You'd said yes so much that you're almost programmed to say yes again.
Yeah.
There's a wild
I just
story.
said yes. I just said yes. Like you programmed me to say yes. It worked.
Yeah, so that's an old technique. That's what they used to do. So,
you know what helped me on stage, and just because you brought up technique, is the turning point for me doing comedy is when I stopped reciting things that I had memorized and I started actually saying the things that I had memorized, and I completely stole it from, I don't know if I stole it, but I learned it by watching Doug Stanhope. He's really good at it. He does these stutter steps.
Right.
Speech where he's like he's trying to think it like he does what I'm doing right now. Just these little staggers in the speech, and it keeps you listening. It keeps you in because you're like, "Oh, what is he telling the next part of the joke?" Like it's a real subtle thing because I saw him twice. The first time I saw him, I was like, "He's amazing." I can't believe. First of all, I thought he made it all up. I thought it was all improvisation.
Yeah.
I thought he was so good that I was like, I'd been doing comedy for 2 years and I thought I knew everything. I was like, this guy's amazing. And then I saw him 6 months later and it was the exact same with all the same stutters and staggers on the same words for the most part. And I was like, fucking brilliant, man. He makes it sound like it's conversational. And that's what made Doug the best. And I think the best comics today make it sound conversational. Bill Burr sounds conversational. You know, who's the other young guy with the curly hair that Seinfeld likes? I can never think of his name.
Oh, Mark Norman?
Mark Norman, yeah. Mark Norman he seems conversational, but he's delivering beautifully written jokes. Like he's I think the perfect comedian. I think he's the best comic doing it right now because he's mixing brilliant one-liner jokes with his personality and it's working for him, you know? And just, that's the way he is. He's not putting on airs, you know?
Yeah.
And the jokes are so good. I actually had to stop listening to this podcast because I was like, it's making me feel bad about myself. Like, you know, and I'm happy for him. Joe List, I love Joe List. Like those guys do a podcast together, but you know, every week Norman's talking about, we had to add some shows, you know, sold out 9 shows at the Improv, had to add 3 on a Saturday. Oh, sold out all my merch. And I'm just like, okay, I can't listen to this. I'm happy for you, but it's killing me to hear how good you're doing. And he deserves it though, because I think he's amazing. It's hard to hear.
And, you know, that's the thing I think that some of us, it's like we laid the bricks. Like you look at guys like you, not we, because I don't have anything out there, but you guys had those early things. It was like early records. Somebody asked me the other day what I thought this new craze is like. And I said, it's like disco or it's like hair bands before grunge hit. Because it's almost like so decadent right now that all of a sudden reality's going to go, grunge rock's going to come back and go, hey, dude, this is comedy. Because I think it's changed in some aspects of the world of what it is on stage. than what it
Yeah,
what it
no, I
was
know
just a
exactly
few
what
years
you're
ago.
talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like back in the day, there's been this huge evolution of comedy over the last 4 decades, and I work on a lot of projects with the record label where I've been able to like see how comedy has changed through all these years. Like back in the days of all the, in the 50s, the late 50s, early 60s, all the Jack Benny's and that old school, those guys, they were all doing basically street jokes, and they were all just
Right.
sharing street jokes. They all did each other's jokes. There was like 40 street jokes that everybody did, and that was what comedy was. And then I'm so bad at pulling names when I'm talking, but the guy that went to jail for Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce, yeah.
Then Lenny Bruce came along and started actually talking about kind of his life and some real stuff, and he wasn't just doing, fella goes into a hotel, see, and he's got his wife, and they all
Yeah.
used to talk with that weird mid-Atlantic
Yeah.
accent that Hollywood created.
Marx
And then Lenny
Brothers.
Bruce gets a little more real, and then Richard Pryor is the one that mainstreamed it. Richard Pryor is the one that really turned it upside down on its head. And I also think Carlin is right there with
Cosby.
him changing it. And Cosby did a lot too.
His
little more on the
storytelling.
raping side. Little more on the raping side than
Yeah,
most.
I'm
But,
not saying I'm looking at his past, not his future.
but yeah, and it's just weird. And then it there was the whole, it was in the 70s, and then in the 80s, everything changed. All these comedy clubs because it was on TV. So there was a huge evolution, and then everybody started doing comedy, and then it wasn't necessarily as real, and it was a lot of actors doing comedy. Like
Right.
a lot of those evening at the Improvs, Full Frontal Comedy, Caroline's Comedy Hour, a lot of those comics just went on to be writers. They just wanted to be writers anyway, or they wanted to be actors. And they
Right.
were just kind of using the profession of comedy because there was so many shows filming at the same time in the 80s. Every network had a show, had one or two comedy shows. I mean,
Right.
I'm willing to bet that's how you were exposed to it. That's how I was. Like every channel
I
I
watched
turned on.
or A&E Improv with the brick wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching that all the time and seeing
I
Adam
wouldn't miss it.
Sandler
I
come
would
on.
stay up
and-
late.
yeah, Ray Romano, Brad
Yeah.
Garrett, all those guys were on there. I remember watching.
And that's why,
that.
there was speaking of Ray Romano, there was the time then when people started popping and getting TV shows. Roseanne,
Yeah.
Ray Romano,
Tim Allen.
King of Queens, Tim Allen. King of Queens was a little later, but yeah. So then everyone was like, "Oh, now you gotta have your 10 minutes, and it's gotta be about your life." So they could. It's basically your sitcom. Your set is basically the first episode of your sitcom. It's the pilot. Everyone kind of started focusing on that, and then there was sort of the alternative thing sprung out of that with the Janine Garofalos and the David Crosses. They're like, "No, we're not doing all. We're going back to doing real comedy where we talk about real stuff." And it's just cool to see all the ebbs and flows of it and how it's changed. And I will tell you this, throughout all of it, listen to anything I say, throughout all of it, it's been called an open mic. You sons of bitch in young comics who have changed it to be mics. Oh, I went and did a mic last night. Doug, I'm telling you, this is the thing that bothers me the most is you talk about laying the groundwork, okay? Like they were open mics forever before we even started doing comedy, and they're going to be open mics forever. And throughout time, I've kind of figured out the origins of it, and I think where it started. I think Louis C.K. is who ruined it for us, because I think he had his show where he would go do sets every night at the Cellar, right? He would go up and just do short set.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of young comics started to think, well, hey, I'm like Louis. I do short sets too. I do them at the open mic. Ooh, open. Oh, that makes it seem like anybody could do it. We should get rid of the open. Let's just call them mics. Yeah, it was that mic. I did 3 mics last week. So, and if you could tell me any different,
oh no, I'm not.
Joe Zimmerman was the first one I heard say it. And I go, Joe, what'd you say? He goes, mics. And I go, I don't know. We call them mics now? He goes, yeah, I'm from New York. We call them mics. I'm like, Joe, they're open mics. He's like, we call them mics now. And his reasoning was, it's just easier. It's quicker. Like you don't have time to say the word open. That's how busy your life is as a non-working comic that and not Joe, by the way. Joe's killing it. But don't tell me it's a time saver to say mic. You're trying to legitimize yourself too early, and you don't deserve it.
I would agree with you.
It's a fucking open mic. I hate it. It bugs the shit out of me when people call them open mics. And if you call it a mic next to me, I'll go, oh, could anyone go up there? Yeah, anybody could. Oh, okay. Well, then it's an open mic. Right? So it's technically an open mic. Okay, then why don't we just call it fucking open mic?
Yeah.
Bothers me, dude. I don't know why. It shouldn't bother me that much, but it does.
Oh, I get annoyed by it too. I'm not going to throw
That's
a
the only
punch
one.
at the wall.
I try not to be an old guy in any other way, but that's the only one where I'm like, you young fuckers are ruining it. Because the idea, it's supposed to keep you humble, man. Like, you're still doing open mics. Like, that's what, when a comic says, oh, you do comedy, how long you been doing it? You're supposed to say, oh, I'm still only doing open mics.
Right.
You know, it's not that we should treat you any differently, because I pride myself on, I don't care how long you've been doing comedy. It could be the first night you've ever done it. We're friends because we're part of this fraternity. We're brothers. Like, you know, the second I met you, Doug, I was like, I'll probably be friends with Doug forever because we do the same shit. Like, we suffered the same things. We've gone through the same shit. So,
right.
Yeah, so that's why it bothers me when I hear open mic, because it's like, you can't, that's part of it is you have to do open mics. You can't change the name of it to make yourself feel better.
And I agree with you. And here's the one thing I really agree with you with is we do go through the same shit. And when those guys sometimes will say like, well, I'm a comic, I think, no, you haven't missed birthday parties. You haven't worried about making a funeral. You haven't drove through the night to get back home from 8 hours away because you had life. I mean, you think that going out for beers and cigarettes after you're done talking into a microphone, that's not what me and you lived, you know, like it's being gone for long periods of time, knowing you're on the road and it causes friction at home or just everything. It's
the sacrifices, man.
And that's where comedy comes from. That's where comedy to me is born from, because you're so angry at the world at times. Not angry, but you see it a different way than everybody else does because you're living in a different way and you're exemplifying what you see to other people to make it funny. Like this happened and that happened. And I don't think you really become a good writer until you've been on the road for a little while, because then you start to see the world more.
I agree. And I think the solitude too used to push us, the fact that we were alone a lot. And like we were saying earlier with Spones, you're never really alone. So I don't know if this young crew is going to have the same. Like I met this when I was living in Nashville there for a few years. I was at the comedy bar and this young girl came in. She was like 22, 23. And she went up and her set was like, okay, or whatever. She did all right. And I was just like, so you just like, you in town doing shows or whatever? She's like, oh yeah, I'm a road comic. I go all over the country. And I go, oh really? Like what kind of rooms do you work? What clubs do you work? And she's like, I don't really work clubs. I just go to a city and then like a few days before I just look online and find out where all the mics are and I just try to get on the mics. And as she's saying it, I'm just getting more and more angry. Like, bitch, you're not a fucking road comic. You're a rich young girl. You're a young girl that has rich parents. And they're funding this fucking dream of yours to go from town to town doing open mics. Like the fact, and she was almost, and again, I don't know her, but she was almost speaking condescendingly to me because I didn't like open with my resume. I didn't open.
Yeah, right.
Hey, bitch, I've been doing this since 4 years before you were born. Like I didn't open with that. But, so she was almost like talking down to me, like, yeah, I'm a road comic. I'm like, bitch, you never slept in your car. You're not a real road comic. You know.
Yeah,
and sacrifices.
I told somebody the other day that I'm like, you know, I'll sleep in my car because if I'm doing a prom or somewhere down and I know I'm going to get per diem and I don't want to stay at a hotel, I want to get home or whatever and just need the money, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm sleeping in my
there's
car.
People that can't fathom that you sleep in your car. You tell that to people, they're like, what? Like, you sleep in your car? You're like, yeah, I've slept in my car hundreds and hundreds of times. Hundreds of times.
Right, Ed? Just park it in a Travel America, Road America, or whatever, you know.
Never a rest stop, never a rest area.
I don't do those anymore.
No, always a truck stop. And I go one row away from the row that's right by the building. So
yeah.
At least if I get murdered, it's going to be on camera. They're at least going to catch the guy that did it.
Maybe
that's all I can ask.
Quality isn't very good. It'd just be like it looked like a Yeti or whatever, Bigfoot walking past your Jetta.
Well,
you still driving Volkswagens?
Yeah, man, I'm Volkswagen till I die. Although I did have an Audi in the middle of there, which is technically a Volkswagen. But I actually just bought my first brand new vehicle I've ever bought. And this illustrates what a road comic is. So I bought a brand new 2022 Volkswagen Tiguan with
All right.
28 miles on it.
Look at
28.
you.
I made 2 payments on it. I am 9,800 and about 75 miles on it right now.
Yeah.
I made 2 payments. I have 10,000 miles on it.
Yep.
You want to be a real comic? That's what real comedy is. I
And
wouldn't
then-
want to
not only
start
that-
now though. There's no money in it. You know, it's not like the
No,
money's
but-
ever gone up. It's paid the same since when I started 27 years ago.
Same here. Yeah. Like I'll do a graduation prom thing for hypnosis. This is the same pay that I've got paid since I started it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, at least for that, you can even ask for a little more because you have more substance to it. You know, it's more of a show.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, it's the only
tough
way I
for
could
just
do
a
it.
monologist to be like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm worth way more than this. They're like, are you though?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you would keep their attention anymore with that. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
That would be. I did a
talk
college
loud.
with somebody not too long ago, and I had to do 25 minutes. Man, it was the longest 25 minutes of my life. My daughter's in college, and I thought I can't make her laugh. You know.
Yeah.
How
Dude,
can I
it's
make
my
these
kids are
people laugh?
12 and 15, and it's weird. I'm really close with my boys. I have a great relationship with my boys. I love them. They're my favorite people on the whole entire planet. And they used to look up to me and envy me and think I was great. And I don't know what happened, but like in the last 2-3 years, I became the dumbest person they've ever met. Apparently, like I'm a total fucking idiot. Like there's a lot of dad, and it's like, how dare you, you little bastards? I've kept you alive this long. Like, show me some respect. I don't know. I just feel like they think I'm a fucking buffoon now.
It's the I went through it already, so I can only give you my view or take on it. It doesn't mean it's right. But one thing I asked somebody about it, and he goes, they're getting their independence, and they're starting to go, I have my own thoughts. I appreciate yours, but here's are my thoughts, and don't give me yours anymore.
It's I know exactly why it's happening. It's in the DNA, man. It all goes back to being a caveman. Like they're gonna have to leave the cave in the next few years, and if they think dad's great, they're never gonna want to leave. So they gotta get it in their head that they can do it without me, because that's the only way they're ever gonna leave. So I mean, I know what's happening, but it still hurts, you know. And they start making fun of you for shit, and you're like, what the you guys, I've made your life so fun. Like literally every second we're together, I'm all about fun. Let's have fun. And like now I'm this big dumb idiot that doesn't know anything. Like I said something about Post Malone. Like I just offhandedly said something about, well, you know, Post Malone. It only took one video for him to pop. He blew up with that White Iverson video. And my kids are like, how did you know that? How did you know about Post Malone? I'm like, because I'm alive, you assholes. It's not like I don't live in a cocoon. Like I'm still taking life in. It's so funny, man.
That's the weird. Like the other thing is with my kids is I live with 3 women, and so every time I hear them talking or giggling, this is real. I'll be like, "Are you talking about me?" Because I constantly wonder if they're, because I know that they'll be texting each other in a car and they'll all start giggling, and I'll be like, "What's that? What's going on?"
Yeah, and my wife will be like, me.
Yeah, and my wife will be like, "Well, it's because you're driving 5 miles an hour below the speed limit."
Yeah,
and then I'll look, and I am, and they're all talking about it and shit in there. So
just be a man and just tell me to speed up. You know, why you got to be giddy about it?
Yeah, why you got to be throwing shade on text?
I don't envy you, man. I didn't have a dad growing up, which probably explains a lot. But so I was raised by my mom and 3 sisters. So I was in your same boat. That was my whole upbringing.
Yeah,
I was just surrounded by women. No one knew anything about how I felt or what was good. You know, I had my grandfather.
Did they care?
Yeah, and they didn't give a shit. They would just treat me like I was one of the girls, and it's like, but I'm a dude. Like I think I should be treated differently.
What is your armpit hair? Gross. What?
Yeah. I'm shaving my armpits. Like, you sure every guy does this? You sure you guys aren't just making me do this?
And his legs. You're tweezing out a unibrows instead of just shaving them. Well, shit, dude. We're right at an hour and a half. You good?
Yeah, I got to go grab, speaking of those kids, I got to go grab them from school. And you know how it is. You got to get there early so you get a nice parking spot.
I definitely get it. And the other thing I want to do is, the moms
just say all the fucking Karens show up and they start getting crazy in the parking lot. I like to get there before that.
They got a blowgun out the window, hitting your kid as they come by.
The windows down. Connor, mommy's over here. Connor. fucking annoying.
Well, let's do this again. I always got time, and I'd love to do it again in maybe a few months or something like that, have you back on, because there's some stuff that I'd love to cover with you, like about your podcast, because that was one of the things I always used to listen to on the road was your podcast. I think the last thing I listened to, I think you replayed a Roy Wood Jr. one. I think you were replaying a Roy Wood Jr., and I was going to Russellville, Arkansas, and I remember driving through there listening to it, and it's been years ago, but...
I haven't made them in years. Towards the end of the run, Rob Breckenridge and I were making a bunch of episodes together, and those are some of my favorite episodes because we were just
in a hotel room after the shows. Sometimes I think, right?
Yeah, a lot of those. But then I actually had somewhat of a studio built in my basement, and we had so much fun. We would just bring up music on the internet and then improvise songs. And I can actually kind of sing, and Rob is the worst person I've ever heard sing in my entire life. It's the fucking worst thing you've ever heard. And somehow together it made it work. But anyway, there's no way to hear those because I took them all down. But we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you about that because I do remember that was like a big thing as I listened to your podcast when they were out. So I remember when you did the one. I listened to him, dude. And I remember one time you did this thing and I thought it was brilliant.
Can't wait to hear this.
You had your top 500 comics. And I think every comic, that was your most played one because every fucking comic went and listened to that. I guarantee it.
Oh, you know what's the best about that is my roommate.
Am I wrong,
at
though?
the time.
Is that
right? It was my top 500 favorite comedians. And all I did is I went to my Facebook friends list and just wrote down names. Everyone that said comic or everyone I recognized in the comic, I wrote it doan. No order, no particular order. Then my roommate at the time was, and this, by the way, there still hasn't been a payoff. He lived with me at the time. He's a comic. And so I did my top 500. And then I go, you know what? There just wasn't room on the list for this guy. Sorry, I didn't get you on the list. Steve Hartman, you didn't make the list or whatever. So the whole thing was this payoff at the end of it where I didn't have enough room to put you on the list, Steve. And he's never listened to the episode. He never listened to it. So the whole joke of it is that, there's 500 great comedians, but you aren't one of them. You didn't even make the top 500. And the joke never worked because he's never listened to it. Every now and then I'm like, you sure you never, he's like, I never listened to it, dude. He goes, why? I'm like, I'm just saying. But anyway, so it never paid off. But
well, I thought it was brilliant because I bet you had a lot of people tune in for that.
I bet I had at least 500. I bet I had at least 500 downloads on that one.
I would guess so. I don't think I ever downloaded yours. I don't remember where I got them from, but I do remember listening to him a lot. But I remember the Roy Wood one because he was kind of starting to get big on Sullivan, and I think you brought him back on. And
I went to in L.A. We'll talk about it next time, but I sat at his place in L.A. for like 3 hours, and I probably should have listened to all the business advice he gave me because now he's huge, and I'm talking to you, no disrespect, but
well, I don't disrespect.
In that 3 hours, I'm sure he gave some good information. I love Roy Wood.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, thanks for being on, dude. I really appreciate it, and stay warm. Don't forget about your snow thrower.
Yeah, I gotta go throw snow. I prefer to blow it.
It's a bit 3. That sounded more like Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that.
I'm done.
I've
been running in the dark. Mike Merryfield, where can they find more about you at?
Everything's Mike Merryfield, MikeMerryfield.com. I'm Mike Merryfield on everything. So
if they go to your website, they can click through all your links to all the different places. Perfect. I'll have them do that.
The stand-up journey. The stand-up journeyman's on Amazon, where you could watch it for free. You can pay for it on Amazon, or you can watch it for free on YouTube. I prefer you pay for it on Amazon, but
yeah. So we'll leave out the YouTube. It's too late. You already said it. So good to see you, buddy. Go get those kids. I'll talk to you later. I'll call you later today. So
all right. See you.
There you have it. Mike Merryfield, the big deal, on this week's episode of Running in the Dark with Doug T. You know what? Go click his links, MikeMerryfield.com. Check out The Journeyman. Check out all of his stuff online. Without your guys' support, we don't get to make it as comics. And if you like to laugh, there's plenty of stuff out there of his that you can find to laugh at. Keep tuning in, hit subscribe, hit the bell, notify that I got a new episode out. Next week's guest is, I don't even know, man. I don't even know who it is. Doesn't matter. You just got done watching this one. So till next time, Have a great week. And sleep.